It has been nearly 40 years since Clint Eastwood's mysterious preacher rode into our hearts. Today, we peel back the curtain of time to see the faces behind the legends. From tragic goodbyes to unrecognizable transformations, the stars of Pale Rider have lived lives as intense as the film itself. Join us for a nostalgic look at where they are now and which beloved actors we've sadly lost along the way. Clint Eastwood as Preacher. Born on May 31, 1930 in San Francisco, California, the iconic actor and filmmaker brought the enigmatic preacher to life in the 1985 film Pale Rider. At the age of 55, Eastwood's portrayal of the mysterious pale horse-riding savior became a massive cultural and critical success. The movie stood as the highest-grossing Western of the 1980s, revitalizing a struggling genre and cementing Eastwood's legacy as cinema's definitive anti-hero. The Preacher. A spectral figure donning a clerical collar while wielding a lethal six-shooter offered a quintessential depiction of frontier justice and divine retribution that captivated audiences worldwide. Despite the character's violent, mythical, and coldly ruthless nature on screen, Clint Eastwood is known in real life as a soft-spoken, low-key individual with a deep passion for jazz music and an famously calm, quiet approach to filmmaking. This contrast is a defining element of his journey. While audiences viewed him as an imposing, heavily armed drifter, those who worked with him knew him as a highly disciplined and thoughtful collaborator. However, his path to critical reverence was not without professional hardship. For a significant portion of his career, Eastwood struggled against being typecast solely as a monosyllabic tough guy or Western action star. He fought an uphill battle to be taken seriously as a dramatic actor and an auteur-director, with critics often dismissing his early creative efforts outside the bounds of his established machismo image, which eventually drove him to form his own production company just to ensure creative control over his work. Clint Eastwood ultimately transcended those early constraints to become one of Hollywood's most acclaimed filmmakers, winning multiple Academy Awards for directing and producing masterpieces like Unforgiven and Million Dollar Baby. His personal life has been heavily publicized and complex, featuring several high-profile relationships, 2 marriages, and 8 children, though he has always attempted to keep his private life out of the tabloid spotlight. He has worked relentlessly into his twilight years, continually stepping behind and in front of the camera for late-career films such as Gran Torino, The Mule, Cry Macho, and his recent directorial effort, Juror No. 2. As of 2026, at the age of 95, he remains a towering, legendary figure in the entertainment industry, celebrated for his unparalleled longevity and his indelible mark on American cinema. Michael Moriarty as Hull Barrett. Born on April 5, 1941 in Detroit, Michigan, the acclaimed actor took on the memorable role of the resilient gold prospector in Clint Eastwood's classic 1985 Western Pale Rider. At the age of 44, Moriarty's portrayal of Hull Barrett became a standout performance, capturing the essence of the hard-working, salt-of-the-earth pioneer. His character's stubborn refusal to bow to a corrupt mining syndicate and his eventual partnership with the mysterious preacher provided the emotional core of the film. Hull Barrett resonated deeply with audiences as a symbol of everyday courage and the enduring American spirit in the face of overwhelming greed and intimidation. In stark contrast to the grounded, steadfast, and simple bravery of Hull Barrett, Michael Moriarty's real life was incredibly complex, marked by intense intellectual pursuits, erratic turns, and significant controversy. While Barrett was a calm and unassuming family man, Moriarty often battled intense inner demons, including a long, well-documented fight with severe alcoholism. Professionally, his career faced dramatic hardships when he abruptly quit his acclaimed starring role as Executive Assistant District Attorney Benjamin Stone on Law and Order in 1994. Following a highly publicized and fiery confrontation with U.S. Attorney General Janet Reno over television violence and censorship, Moriarty went into a self-imposed political exile, moving to Canada. This sudden departure led to massive professional fallout. He was largely blacklisted from mainstream Hollywood, making it incredibly difficult for him to find major American acting work for years afterward. Moriarty eventually found peace in his Canadian exile, where he embraced a quieter life, achieved sobriety, and focused on his secondary passions as a jazz pianist, classical composer, and political columnist. Over the decades, he continued to work sporadically in independent films and television in Canada, eventually making his home in British Columbia. As of 2026, at the age of 85, he is semi-retired from acting and lives quietly away from the limelight. He remains a fiercely independent thinker and a multifaceted artist whose legacy spans both brilliant award-winning performances and a fascinating, highly unconventional personal journey. Carrie Snodgress as Sarah Wheeler. Born on October 27, 1945 in Barrington, Illinois, the talented actress first captured Hollywood's attention before making a memorable mark in Clint Eastwood's 1985 Western Pale Rider. At the age of 39, Snodgress's portrayal of the steadfast and resilient homesteader Sarah Wheeler added a strong emotional core to the film. Her performance provided a grounded human perspective in a rugged frontier setting, creating a quiet but vital counterweight to the movie's iconic mythic violence. Sarah's desperate search for stability and safety against corrupt land barons resonated with audiences, making her a memorable figure in what became one of the 1980s most successful westerns. While Sarah Wheeler was defined by her pursuit of homesteading stability and quiet endurance, Carrie Snodgress was a fiercely independent free spirit who defied Hollywood conventions. After earning an Academy Award nomination and 2 Golden Globes early in her career for her starring role in 1970's Diary of a Mad Housewife, she stunned the entertainment industry by walking away from stardom entirely. Snodgress abandoned her skyrocketing career to live on a remote Northern California ranch with rock musician Neil Young and care for their son Zeke, who was born with cerebral palsy. When Snodgress eventually decided to return to acting years later, she found that her extended hiatus had severely damaged her professional momentum. She faced significant hardships, struggling to reclaim leading roles and finding herself relegated to parts in low-budget horror movies or sporadic TV guest spots. The industry's unforgiving nature toward actresses who step away, combined with a highly publicized 1979 incident in which a subsequent ex-boyfriend barged into her home and beat her with a handgun, made her Hollywood comeback a grueling uphill battle. Snodgress continued to work steadily in character roles on stage and television throughout the 1990s and early 2000s, making appearances on popular series like The X-Files, ER, and The West Wing. Despite her career setbacks, she consistently maintained that she had no regrets about prioritizing her life and family over fame. Snodgress passed away at the UCLA Medical Center in Los Angeles on April 1, 2004, at the age of 58, from heart failure while she was hospitalized and awaiting a liver transplant. Her death was followed by a private family funeral where she was surrounded by her loved ones, including her son Zeke, bringing a quiet and intimate end to the life of an actress who famously chose her own path over the relentless demands of Hollywood. Chris Penn as Josh LaHood. Born on October 10, 1965 in Los Angeles, California, the talented native first brought Josh LaHood to life in Clint Eastwood's acclaimed Western Pale Rider. At the age of 19, Penn's portrayal of the arrogant, entitled, and menacing son of a ruthless mining baron became a standout element of the genre. Offering a gripping depiction of unchecked privilege and frontier cruelty, his performance added significant dramatic weight to the film. As a prominent antagonist who repeatedly clashes with Eastwood's enigmatic preacher, his character's bravado provided the 1985 classic with some of its most compelling and culturally resonant moments. Despite frequently playing aggressive, menacing thugs or entitled villains like Josh LaHood, Chris Penn was known by friends and family as a genial, sensitive, and deeply humorous individual, the polar opposite of his on-screen personas. This contrast was a significant part of his personal journey. He found tapping into the dark psyche of brutal characters to be creatively challenging. His career was also marked by the struggle of being heavily typecast, which often relegated him to supporting roles as the perpetual tough guy or criminal sidekick. Furthermore, he faced the enduring professional hardship of living in the shadow of his Oscar-winning older brother Sean Penn, making it difficult at times to secure leading roles or find work that allowed him to step out of his family's towering legacy. Chris Penn continued to work steadily in film and television throughout the 1990s and early 2000s, delivering iconic performances in beloved cult classics like Reservoir Dogs, True Romance, and Rush Hour. Despite his undeniable talent and critical success, his later years were heavily marred by personal struggles, including battles with substance abuse and significant weight gain that severely compromised his health. Penn passed away at his condominium in Santa Monica, California on January 24, 2006, at the age of 40, from nonspecific cardiomyopathy heart disease, compounded by an enlarged heart and the effects of multiple prescription medications. His tragic and untimely death devastated the Hollywood community, prompting heartbreaking tributes from his family and peers who mourned the loss of an immensely gifted character actor whose full potential was never truly realized. Richard Dysart as Coy LaHood. Born on March 30, 1929 near Boston, Massachusetts, the accomplished stage actor brought the character of Coy LaHood to life in the 1985 Western classic Pale Rider. At the age of 56, Dysart's portrayal of the greedy, ruthless mining baron who used violence and intimidation to run small prospectors off their claims became a defining performance. His turn as the arrogant corporate villain provided the perfect, deeply detestable foil to Clint Eastwood's mysterious preacher, and the character stands as one of the quintessential cinematic antagonists of the 1980s. LaHood perfectly encapsulated the era's anxieties surrounding unchecked corporate greed and environmental destruction, leaving a lasting mark on the Western genre. Despite the manipulative and callous nature of his on-screen counterpart, Richard Dysart was in reality a warm, unassuming man and a decorated veteran who had served in the United States Air Force during the Korean War. The gentle humility he possessed in his personal life stood in stark contrast to the tyrants and heavy-handed figures he so often portrayed. His career was marked by a constant struggle with typecasting. His commanding voice, bespectacled face, and distinguished demeanor frequently pigeonholed him into playing stern authority figures, from corrupt executives and military leaders to doctors and judges. Later in his career, after achieving immense television fame as patriarch Leland Mackenzie on the hit series L.A. Law, he faced the professional hardship of finding substantial roles. When the show's 8-season run concluded in 1994, Dysart's on-screen output significantly tapered off as the industry struggled to see the older actor outside of his famous legal archetype. Richard Dysart spent his later years far away from the Hollywood spotlight, embracing a quiet and fulfilling personal life. He married artist Catherine Jacoby in 1987, and the couple split their time between their residence in Santa Monica, California, and a secluded second home in the peaceful forests of British Columbia. Aside from occasional voice acting and a final return to his famous TV role for a 2002 L.A. Law reunion movie, he happily retired from the screen to be a devoted husband and step-grandfather. Richard Dysart passed away at his home in Santa Monica on April 5, 2015 at the age of 86 following a long and difficult battle with cancer. His death marked the loss of a truly distinguished character actor, and he was survived by his wife's stepson and step-grandchildren, leaving behind a celebrated legacy on both the stage and screen as his family peacefully laid him to rest. Richard Kiel as Club. Born on September 13, 1939 in Detroit, Michigan, the exceptionally tall actor brought his commanding presence to the screen for decades before taking on the role of the giant henchman Club in Clint Eastwood's 1985 Western Pale Rider. At the age of 45, Kiel's portrayal of the physically imposing and mostly silent enforcer who works for a villainous mining baron only to ultimately switch allegiances to help the hero left a lasting mark on the Western genre. Standing over 7 feet tall, his performance utilized his extraordinary stature to turn Club into a highly memorable cinematic figure, adding to a legendary resume of larger-than-life characters that firmly cemented his pop culture legacy. Despite the fearsome, brutish, and often mute characters he was famous for playing, Richard Kiel was the polar opposite of the monsters he portrayed on screen. In real life, he was a highly intelligent former night school mathematics instructor, widely described by colleagues as a soft-spoken, warm-hearted, gentle giant. This contrast was a central part of his professional struggle. Because of his immense height, the result of a hormonal condition known as acromegaly, Kiel faced extreme typecasting. This severely limited his opportunities, making it difficult for him to find work that required genuine emotional depth rather than just being utilized as a visual gag or a mindless brute. His career was further derailed by unexpected hardships. In 1992, he suffered a severe head injury in a car accident that permanently affected his balance. Forced to rely on a cane or a motorized scooter, he faced a disheartening slowdown in his career, as his limited mobility drastically restricted his ability to perform the highly physical roles that Hollywood expected of him. Richard Kiel continued to take on select film and voice roles later in life, memorably appearing as Mr. Larson in the 1996 comedy Happy Gilmore, and voicing the character Vlad in Disney's 2010 animated hit Tangled. He remained a devoted family man, maintaining a 40-year marriage to his wife Diane, who stood over 2 feet shorter than him, and successfully overcoming a personal battle with alcoholism through his Christian faith. Kiel passed away at St. Agnes Medical Center in Fresno, California, on September 10, 2014, at the age of 74 from heart disease. His death, which occurred just 3 days before his 75th birthday and shortly after he was hospitalized for a broken leg, prompted a massive outpouring of tributes from fans, friends, and former co-stars who celebrated not just his towering cinematic presence, but his immense kindness and gentle spirit. John Russell as Marshall Stockburn. Born on January 3, 1921 in Los Angeles, California, the tall and imposing actor brought a commanding presence to the screen for decades before taking on his most chilling antagonist. At the age of 64, Russell's portrayal of the ruthless, corrupted peace officer Marshall Stockburn in Clint Eastwood's 1985 hit Pale Rider became a cultural touchstone for Western fans, offering a cinematic depiction of cold, calculated villainy that was both terrifying and deeply memorable. As the chief enforcer facing off against Eastwood's mysterious preacher, his intimidating stare and iconic delivery of the single line, "You defined a character that remains one of the Western genre's most unforgettable adversaries." Despite the character's cold-blooded and malevolent nature, John Russell was an honorable, deeply patriotic, and cultured gentleman who was considered the polar opposite of the corrupt villains he often played. A former student-athlete at UCLA, he was a decorated World War II hero who served as a U.S. Marine Corps intelligence officer at Guadalcanal. A real-life bravery that contrasted sharply with his on-screen personas. This contrast was a significant part of his professional journey, which was heavily marked by the struggle of being typecast. Because of his towering, 6'3" frame and stolid demeanor, he found himself locked in a tightly knit bubble of Western lawmen and outlaws. Russell also endured the professional sting of television cancellations, most notably when his 1950s primetime leading series Soldiers of Fortune was axed due to poor adult viewership, and he frequently struggled to find diverse work outside the fading Western genre. John Russell continued to take on occasional supporting roles into the late 1980s, remaining a steadfast figure in action and Western films while living a relatively private life off-screen. He had been married twice, fathered 3 children, and maintained a profound humility about his acting career, viewing his military service as his true life's pride. His final film appearance was in 1988's Under the Gun, as a lifelong smoking habit brought on severe health struggles that effectively ended his acting career. Russell passed away in Los Angeles, California on January 19, 1991, at the age of 70 from complications related to emphysema. In a poignant and notable aftermath, he was given a full military burial at the Los Angeles National Cemetery, where, per his strict final wishes, his tombstone completely omits his Hollywood stardom, bearing instead a Christian cross, the phrase, "Precious Liberty," and his World War II rank as a second lieutenant in the U.S. Marine Corps. Sidney Penny as Megan Wheeler. Born on August 7, 1971 in Nashville, Tennessee, the actress first brought her undeniable talent to the silver screen in Clint Eastwood's acclaimed 1985 Western Pale Rider. At the age of 13, Penny's portrayal of Megan Wheeler, a young girl who fervently prays for a miracle and becomes infatuated with an enigmatic preacher, became a standout performance. The character struck a chord with audiences, providing the film with its emotional core and earning Penny a Young Artist Award. Her success in the role cemented her as one of the era's most promising young talents, bridging the gap between child star and serious dramatic actress in a massive box office hit. Despite playing a vulnerable, awestruck frontier teenager who relied on a mysterious savior, Sidney Penny was in reality an intensely grounded, self-reliant, and highly educated individual who navigated Hollywood with a maturity far beyond her years. This contrast served her well, but transitioning from a celebrated child actor to an adult star proved to be a challenging professional journey. Finding her niche in the world of daytime television, Penny achieved great fame on soap operas, but she also encountered the distinct hardships of that industry, including the persistent threat of being typecast as a dramatic daytime heroine. She faced sudden career disruptions such as the cancellation of the soap opera Santa Barbara in 1993, and later dealt with the frustration of having her character on The Bold and the Beautiful unexpectedly bumped to recurring status when the storyline failed to catch on, forcing her to constantly adapt to the volatile nature of network television. Sydney Penny continued to reinvent herself in the decades that followed, taking on roles in various television movies, international films, and primetime guest spots, while also stepping behind the camera to write and produce. She married artist and chef Robert Powers in 1995, and the couple welcomed a son, Chasen, in 2007. In recent years, she expanded her creative endeavors by founding Cuckelber and Company, a production company dedicated to authentic Southern storytelling. As of 2026, at the age of 54, she is alive and remains active in the entertainment industry, balancing her family life with her passions for independent filmmaking, writing, and mentoring the next generation of actors. Doug McGrath as Spider Conway. Born on April 13, 1935 in Vancouver, British Columbia, the Canadian native first brought Spider Conway to life in Clint Eastwood's acclaimed 1985 Western Pale Rider. At the age of 50, McGrath's portrayal of the stubborn and fiercely independent gold miner became a memorable and emotionally resonant part of the film's success. Spider's refusal to be intimidated by a greedy mining baron, culminating in his tragic demise, offered audiences a grounded representation of the hard-working, resilient underdog. His performance added a profound emotional weight to the narrative, making Spider Conway an unforgettable symbol of the classic Western struggle between ordinary men and corrupt corporate power. Despite playing such a tragically defiant, outspoken, and gritty frontiersman, Doug McGrath was known in real life as a quiet, adaptable, and exceptionally modest individual. This stark contrast made his transformation into the fiery miner all the more impressive, as he naturally leaned toward a much more unassuming demeanor. His professional journey was heavily marked by the struggle of being typecast. Following his early acclaim as a lead in the landmark Canadian film Going Down the Road, 1970, Hollywood quickly boxed him into playing quirky sidekicks, rough working-class men, or small-town authority figures. This restrictive typecasting made it incredibly difficult for him to secure leading roles in the United States, forcing him to navigate the hardship of sporadic Hollywood work and constantly commute between the U.S. and Canadian entertainment industries just to find substantial parts. Doug McGrath continued to act steadily for decades, taking on supporting roles in American films like The Rocketeer and Ghosts of Mars, while also returning to his roots for Canadian television series such as This Is Wonderland. In 2011, he fittingly bookended his cinematic legacy by reprising his famous role as Pete in Down the Road Again, a sequel to his initial breakout hit. Following this final major appearance, he stepped away from the industry, entirely choosing a peaceful retirement over the demands of the Hollywood machine. As of 2026, at the age of 91, he is retired and living a deeply private life out of the public eye, fondly remembered by cinephiles as an endearing and highly reliable character actor. Charles Hallahan as McGill. Born on July 29, 1943 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the acclaimed character actor brought the burly enforcer McGill to life in Clint Eastwood's 1985 hit Pale Rider. At the age of 41, Hallahan's portrayal of the imposing henchman working for the ruthless mining baron Coy LaHood contributed to the gritty, tense atmosphere of the decade's highest-grossing Western. Facing off against the enigmatic Preacher, his character's memorable demise during the climactic shootout helped solidify the film's massive box office success and enduring status as a classic of the genre. Despite frequently playing intimidating tough guys, roughneck cops, and menacing outlaws like McGill, due to his beefy physical stature and rugged countenance, Charles Hallahan was a deeply intellectual, down-to-earth theater veteran holding a Master of Fine Arts degree from Temple University. This contrast defined his professional journey. He often found Hollywood's offerings creatively unfulfilling compared to his stage work. He publicly struggled with being heavily typecast as a generic detective, or heavy, once openly stating that television and movies were mostly places to make money where he was just filling in a plot. His true passion lay in complex, exhausting stage epics, and his screen career was sometimes marred by industry volatility, including having to navigate the chaotic production struggles, sudden cast overhauls, and toxic behind-the-scenes environment of the 1990s sitcom Grace Under Fire. Charles Hallahan continued to work prolifically throughout the late 1980s and 1990s, earning widespread recognition for his long-running television role as Captain Charlie Devane on the police drama Hunter, and appearing in major films like The Thing and Dante's Peak. Off-screen, he remained deeply dedicated to the stage, winning multiple Los Angeles Drama Critics Circle Awards, and cherished a quiet personal life with his wife Barbara and their two young sons. Tragically, his journey was cut drastically short. Hallahan passed away on November 25, 1997, at the age of 54 from a sudden heart attack while driving his car in Los Angeles. His unexpected death stunned the acting community and occurred just after he had been cast as Liam Bilby in an episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, forcing the production to mournfully scramble for a replacement in the tragic aftermath. Marvin J. McIntyre as Jagu. Born on October 27, 1948, the Kentucky native first brought his unique presence to the screen before stepping into the dusty boots of Jagu in Clint Eastwood's 1985 hit Pale Rider. At the age of 36, McIntyre's portrayal of the gritty and menacing henchman added a distinct layer of peril to the film, serving as a memorable antagonist that helped elevate the movie to a massive box office success. Though his screen time was shared with a posse of villains, his distinct look and rugged performance left a lasting cultural mark on the Western genre, offering a classic depiction of frontier lawlessness that resonated strongly with audiences. Despite his character's ruthless and villainous nature on screen, Marvin J. McIntyre in real life is known for being incredibly warm, affable, and deeply engaged with his colleagues and fans. Those who worked with him described him as a gentle and collaborative spirit, making him the polar opposite of the cold-blooded henchman Jagu. This contrast was a significant part of his personal journey in Hollywood, as he found playing violent and menacing characters to be a departure from his own good-natured personality. His career was also marked by the struggle of being typecast. His distinct, rugged appearance and early success in playing quirky oddballs or intimidating thugs made it difficult for him to find more diverse leading work. Furthermore, he faced the professional sting of sudden project and show cancellations, navigating unpredictable dry spells in the industry, while fighting to maintain steady work in a business that was quick to pigeonhole its talent. Marvin J. McIntyre continued to work in television and film for decades, appearing in beloved cult classics like The Running Man, Short Circuit, and Back to the Future Part 3, carving out a respectable niche as a memorable character actor. Away from the silver screen, he has remained a very active and engaging figure in various fan communities. He regularly appears at conventions like the Back to 1885 DeLorean events and Ultimate Fandango fan gatherings, and has been deeply involved with the United States Parachute Association, frequently participating in skydiving history forums. As of 2026, at the age of 78, he is still alive and continues to celebrate his cinematic legacy, maintaining his warm, gregarious spirit while enthusiastically interacting with fans around the country. Fran Ryan as Ma Blankenship. Born on November 29, 1916 in Los Angeles, California, the veteran character actress brought Ma Blankenship to life in the classic 1985 Western Pale Rider. At the age of 68, Ryan's portrayal of the tough, earthy, and resilient shopkeeper became a memorable highlight of the film, offering a cinematic depiction of pioneer grit and loyalty that was both grounded and significant. As a pivotal supporter of the independent miners standing up against a ruthless mining baron, her character's gruff but lovable dynamic added immense heart and moral support to Clint Eastwood's acclaimed project, helping it become the highest-grossing Western of the 1980s. Despite her character's formidable, loud, and outwardly assertive nature, Fran Ryan was known in her private life for her quiet endurance, navigating profound personal tragedies far removed from the comedic busybodies she frequently portrayed. This contrast highlighted a significant personal journey as she pressed forward with her career, despite the unimaginable heartbreak of losing both her first and second husbands in separate tragic plane crashes in the early 1950s. Her professional life was heavily marked by the struggle of being typecast, which limited her to playing stern older women, bag ladies, or eccentric matriarchs, sometimes making it difficult to find diverse work. She also faced the distinct hardship of frequently being hired as a last-minute replacement on established television series. This brought a professional sting when shows like Gunsmoke were abruptly canceled shortly after she joined the main cast. bringing a disheartening end to her new roles and forcing her to constantly search for her next job. Fran Ryan continued to work steadily in television, film, and voiceover acting well into her 70s, bringing her signature presence to shows like The Wizard, Days of Our Lives, and Barney Miller, as well as films such as Chances Are and Stripes. Remaining a dedicated, hard-working professional, she balanced her busy acting schedule with a private personal life, never letting her early tragedies define her final chapters. Ryan passed away at her home in Burbank, California on January 15, 2000, at the age of 83 from natural causes. Following her death, she was cremated, and in a notable aftermath, her formal burial was delayed for several years until her ashes were finally interred in 2004 in a family plot alongside her mother at the Holy Sepulchre Catholic Cemetery in Hayward, California. Richard Hamilton as Jed Blankenship. Born on December 31, 1920, the Chicago, Illinois native first honed his craft in West Coast radio and Broadway theater before taking on some of his most recognizable film roles later in life. At the age of 64, Hamilton's portrayal of the gritty, hardworking miner Jed Blankenship became a memorable element of the classic Western Pale Rider. His character offered a compelling depiction of the everyday settler finding the courage to stand up against corporate tyranny, reflecting a cultural archetype of resilience and unity that deeply resonated with audiences of the 1980s. For the film's duration, his performance helped define the struggles of the tin pan miners, creating a character that remains an enduring figure in Clint Eastwood's cinematic frontier. Despite the character's rugged, dirt-under-the-fingernails persona and frontier roughness, Richard Hamilton was a sophisticated, classically trained stage actor and an intensely private individual. Described by those who knew him as a quiet intellectual and a devoted family man, he was the polar opposite of the grizzled prospectors he frequently played. This contrast highlighted his immense talent as he found stepping into the shoes of unrefined characters to be a fascinating creative challenge. His career, however, was marked by the hardship of being heavily typecast. As he aged, it became increasingly difficult for him to find diverse work, and he was often boxed into playing cranky grandfathers, authoritative judges, or eccentric old men, which limited his opportunities to showcase the profound dramatic depth he had previously displayed in award-winning theater productions like Buried Child. Richard Hamilton continued to work steadily in television and film well into his 70s and 80s, taking on memorable supporting roles in On Deadly Ground, Summersby, and most notably as Agent K's first partner, Agent D, in the 1997 sci-fi blockbuster Men in Black. He maintained a very private personal life, remaining devotedly married to his wife, Marilyn Morgan Hamilton, with whom he shared a son and a daughter. His final on-screen performance was in the 2002 dark comedy Death to Smoochie. Hamilton passed away at his home in the Catskill Mountains of New York on December 21, 2004, at the age of 83 from natural causes. His death was followed by quiet, private mourning away from the Hollywood spotlight, a peaceful aftermath that perfectly reflected the dignified and unassuming way he lived his life, leaving his legacy to be lovingly preserved by his family and the theater community. As the dust settles on the trails of Pale Rider, we're reminded that while time marches on, the legends of the West never truly fade. Seeing these faces today evokes a deep sense of gratitude for the stories they told and the characters we grew to love. Which actor's transformation surprised you the most, and which performance stays with you? Share your favorite memories in the comments below, and subscribe for more journeys through cinematic history.